I'm Charlotte Kahn. Welcome to AI for Good Perspectives, all year, always online. AI for Good Perspectives offer expert insights, global visions, and shared solutions from the AI for Good community. And today we're going to find out how to foster intergenerational collaboration in order to create strong AI ecosystems. Our guests are Salim Jr, Chief Executive Officer at Elsa Health, Megan Allen, who's Chief Operating Officer at Elsa Health, and Stefan Germann, who's CEO at the Fondation Botnar. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, before we start this conversation, could you very briefly introduce yourselves and the organization you work for? Let's start with Ali.
Perfect. My name is Ali Salim, and my background is in software engineering and mathematics, and I work at Elsa Health with the wonderful Megan Allen, and we work on AI in health, particularly in low and middle income countries, and now soon to be in the United States.
I can follow up. My name is Megan. I have a background in biology and global health, and I am the COO at Elsa Health. We're really focused on how we can bring AI into the health sector to improve health outcomes.
Hi, Charlotte, Megan, and Ali. Great to be here. My name is Stefan Germann. I'm the CEO of Fondation Botnar. Fondation Botnar is a Swiss-based philanthropic organization that aims to leverage AI and digital solutions around the world to improve the well-being of young people, looking at both sides, the opportunities, but as well the risks. Great to be here together with you all.
So we're here today to discuss some of the problems or challenges that different generations are currently encountering in order to build stronger AI ecosystems. So first of all, could you tell us what these problems and challenges are?
I'll start with some of the challenges we've identified. I think there's a big gap in a couple of things. One, knowledge between generations when it comes to building AI ecosystems. And there's a both technical knowledge gap as well as a gap in how to deploy and how to finance and fund these sorts of solutions. So that gap causes lots of challenges, friction, frustration between the groups, which we can talk about for sure. And also there's a misalignment in incentives and values, which contributes to the friction and frustration.
Yeah.
Ali, would you like to follow up on this? What happens when generations do not collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, many of our countries are the case studies for this. You look at very successful projects like Zipline. They actually were supposed to start in other countries like Tanzania, but there was a lot of friction between the innovators and the policymakers that the innovators just decided it's easier to just move and go somewhere else. And these are some of the some of the challenges that we see on a day-to-day basis, actually building technologies that the older generation doesn't understand. So you spend half an hour educating them on what it is, and then you spend half an hour educating them that it won't take people's jobs, at least not right now. And then you start educating on the impact that it could have. So yeah, it just prolongs things.
Stefan, your perspective on this?
Yeah, sure. One of the key issues is fostering meaningful participation of young people in this dialogue. So as a foundation, we are deeply committed to foster this dialogue between policymakers, young people. I think we have to remember that most policymakers are sort of my age, and that's sort of about 50. And many of us are having an analog mindset. We've been trained in the analog age, but young people are really living in the digital age, and they have a digital mindset. And I think that different mindset really creates challenges, but as well opportunities. And I think if we bring and create these dialogues of shared understanding, then really the sort of AI ecosystems for digital transformation leveraged by AI can really be transformative.
So Megan and Ali, tell us more about how different generations can work together. What does it look like in practice?
I mean, primarily, I think it starts with a dialogue and conversation, and actually a conversation, as opposed to checking off a box that says I met with a group of young folks over on the east side. It needs to be collaborative around a specific problem that we're trying to solve, and this will help if it's coming specifically from the top because they have the decision-making power, they can actually afford to organize these events, whereas startups most of the time cannot in the context that I work in. And yeah, so this type of collaboration is very necessary.
Yeah, I'll just add, like, young people are high velocity and acceleration. We are, go fast and break things, especially in the AI world. And so we need to reach out to these older generations and create diverse stakeholder groups so that we can understand their values and incentives, so that those, frustrations and breakdowns in the ultimate solution development don't happen. Older generations, on the other hand, I believe, can make themselves more available. So like what Stefan said with Fondation Botnar and how they're fostering these intergenerational dialogues, that's really critical from people in positions of power like government or CEOs of businesses.
Yeah, I think two things. I think two things that we need to overcome is that on one hand, there is a tendency of younger generation linked to AI and digital to probably be more in the hype and overexcited. Whereas I think policymakers underestimate the power that the transformation has in the long term. And I think it's really bridging these two. And it's bringing, the appreciation of different experiences. I do think, policymakers, they really know how to, specifically in the public domain, they know how to influence, create enabling environments so that public financing can actually scale some of these digital innovations. They might not understand the digital solution, but they understand this very well. Whereas young sort of dynamic entrepreneurs in that space, they understand the technology and the solutions, but they don't quite understand how to get that to a national scale. And we see actually, I'm on the Global Council SDG 3 leading a working group on trying to address structural barriers to scaling in health innovations linked to digital and AI. And most of these innovations are not really scaling at the moment with public financing because we don't have that ecosystem that's bridging these intergenerational barriers.
Okay, so could you maybe share some successful examples of cross-generational collaborations? What does it look like on the ground for real?
There are many organizations and communities that have kind of self-assembled, and these are organizations like the Tanzania AI Lab or Data Science Nigeria. It is more of the youth coming together, and they're the ones actively seeking out and engaging some of the people in power, or the decision makers rather. And this has been really helpful in fostering the innovation and letting people not feel alone, like stuck alone, trying to make innovations and trying to come up against all these barriers. And on the other hand, there's government champions who have really, really saved us a couple of times. It's someone who truly believes in this type of project or this type of vision and rallies the rest of the stakeholders from the top-down perspective and brings them together to give us the time of day to hear us out.
Yeah, for us as Fondation Botnar, we are supporting a group called Young Experts Tech for Health. These are from different geographies, Africa, Asia, and Latin America and elsewhere. Young people who really have shown leadership within the transformation on digital health and tech. And we are supporting them that they actually are enabling some of these intergenerational dialogues, because a lot of young people, they're often asked in advisory role, but are not being paid. Yeah. So if the young person's expertise is not recognized as really a distinct expertise, whereas governments and donors might be willing to pay high fees for experts and advisors and consultants, quite often there is a risk that young people are kind of almost exploited in terms of its extractive, bringing their expertise and into the conversation, but actually not being recognized as equal with different viewpoints in that conversation. And I think we need to really overcome that and recognize that young people's expertise is critical, specifically within the digital space, because what I mentioned before, that young people really have grown up in this digital world, have a digital mindset, whereas many of us who are policymakers are really still within that analog world's sort of mindset.
And thank you for bringing that up, Stefan. That's a very frustrating thing, actually, being someone who has attended a few of these free consultation events.
I was going to say, Ali, I think we're on the same wavelength here. Stefan, it's interesting to hear you say that about us, because oftentimes, I mean, including myself in the young generation, I think that's where I fall. But, it's interesting to hear you say that about younger generations and how there's an opportunity to engage and leverage them and value their skills, where younger generations, in mine and Ali's experience, I think we often come with what we believe are good skills, but then and technology development and all these things. And then when we're trying to interface or engage with government leaders or policymakers or funders or whoever, we actually don't feel like, we're able to bridge that gap. So it's not necessarily that we feel like we don't have the skills, but rather we're not able to share those skills in an effective sort of way, or we're not able to align our incentives, which ultimately creates this situation where we stand in front of a group of funders or policymakers and can't get across what our solution is supposed to ultimately do or how it's supposed to benefit people.
That's if they show up for the meetings.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's interesting. But Stefan, I was wondering actually to address Megan's point, how can funding and policymaking organizations support young people's engagement in AI? And what are they looking for normally?
So what we are looking for is really that solutions that young people are driving are very much rooted in local realities. And, Elsa Health is one of these good examples. That's part of a consortium in Tanzania called Afya Tech, with Apotheker, a local organization facilitating and managing this. And it's really bringing these different skill sets together. And I think as funders and philanthropic organizations, we really have an important role to step in where these dynamics otherwise are not taking place. And I do think in that sort of creating spaces to have mutual respect and appreciations between policymakers, if that is well facilitated, it's surprising how policymakers actually are listening and engaged and quite amazed at the power that is transformative by young people if we really bring this together in a meaningful, not in a tokenistic way, but in a really deeply meaningful way. And then in terms of the context of AI ecosystems, then we start to address some of the barriers for scaling up some of these solutions.
Megan and Ali, I was wondering if you could also maybe tell us what you expect from funding institutions or various organizations that can support a digital and youth-led approach to the development of AI.
I think we've been very fortunate in the funders that we've gotten the chance to work with. So maybe I can highlight their good qualities, and those might scale across. It's it's almost a requirement with all of our funders to develop technologies that are relevant for the context that you're in, because this sets you up for better conversations with the stakeholders and decision makers, also sets you up for scale if the opportunity ever comes up. And the second thing is, I think it was very helpful as they allowed us to leverage their network and connections. So some of our funders would bring us in for meetings that they have, and we would get to listen in on how even the conversation actually happens, as well as temper expectations. We're expecting things to happen bam, 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 but it sometimes takes 2 months just to get a meeting set up and 3 months to get the paperwork. It took us 6 months to get ethical approval for a study that is basically non-threatening to anybody. But yeah, so those are the two main things there, is allowing us to leverage their network and connections and skill set, as well as encouraging the innovators to actually build technologies that work from their experience, because they have way more experience and they've seen things come and go. So allowing us to leverage that experience and build things that are relevant in the context has been very good for us.
Okay, so what's the call to action here, guys? What should everyone do in order to bridge the gap that exists between generations, especially in this key and very important development of an ethical and fair AI ecosystem?
So for me, it's very clear. The call to action is we cannot achieve SDGs across, but definitely not SDG 3 in terms of health, if we are not fully leveraging the power of digital and AI transformation through a very deep and meaningful participation of all actors, but especially young people, that especially within, let's say, the African continent, you know, the majority of people today are below 30. And if we don't engage with them in a meaningful way, with their skills and understanding of digital transformation, then we will set ourselves up to fail, and we will not bring to scale national solutions that drive the digital transformation in any sector, but particularly in health.
I think for me, the call to action is very similar to that, but we have to be able to bring all of the diverse stakeholders to the table in order to effectively move forward, because improving this results in a massive increase and a massive improvement in both adoption, scalability, and impact of digital and AI-powered solutions.
Rather, to bring urgency to the points earlier, is that AI is kind of like an exponentiating factor. So the longer we wait to do this, the bigger the gap becomes. And whichever direction that the wave catches you in, so if you're heading in a direction that is opposed to new technologies, you will get left further behind with every single day exponentially. If you choose to embrace it to improve your agricultural yields, you will do that more exponentially every single day. So really, it's just make action in any direction and figure it out after the first step.
Well, Ali, Megan, and Stefan, thank you so much for your insights today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you all.
Evan. Thanks, Charlotte. Nice to be here.
So that's it from us at AI for Good Perspectives, all year, always online.